Hello everyone, my name is Shashank and welcome back to NeuralQuest. So in the last video we saw how we can install Pandas library and we imported a CSV data into a data frame and we performed basic operation to see what all is there in that data. In this video we will see how we can select rows and columns from that data. So in the last video I briefly discussed about this df.head method, which by which if we do not pass any parameter inside the bracket, it will print the first 5 rows. So if I pass any parameter here, say for example 3, it will print the first 3 rows. Similar to df.head, we have df.tail method, which will print the first 5 rows from the last. So now what if I want to select a particular column from the pandas data frame? So for that we say df, inside the bracket we pass the name of the column. For example, player of match. So it gives us this head and tail value and the rest of the values are truncated for better visibility. So it gives us the list of values of from that player of match column. Now, what if I want to select multiple columns from this data frame? So for that we say df and inside the bracket, just like above, instead of passing a single value, we pass a list of values here. So this list of values is nothing but the name of the columns that we want to retrieve. So let's say player of match is one column, and let's say team 1 and team 2. Let's see what we get. So it gives us these 3 columns: player of match, team 1 and team 2. Now there is one more way to, so I am using here the key notation, just like what we use in Python dictionary to get one column. But there is one more way to retrieve a column, which is a dot notation. So for that we say df dot player of match, and it gives us the same result that we got above. So here you can use either of the notation, whether it's a personal preference. You can use either key notation or the dot notation. I prefer to use the key notation, but with dot notation you can only select one column. Now so let's see what is the type of this thing that we just printed here, df dot player of the match. So if we print this, we get this as pandas.core.series.series. So this is a series. So this is of type series. So data frame is data frames consist of rows and columns. So you can consider series as rows of one particular column. So if you combine multiple series, we get a data frame. Now let's see how we can select rows from the data frames. So for selecting rows we have two methods, loc and iloc. So we will see one by one what are these. These are indexers. Iloc allows us to select rows and columns based on their integer locations. So let's see what iloc is first. So if I say df.iloc 0, it gives us the very first row. Integer locations always starts from 0, both for rows and columns. So right now if I'm saying df.iloc 0, so we are getting this first row here. If we want to have the result of first row and first column, we say df.iloc, we pass here 0 for the 0th integer location for row and 0 for 0th integer location for column. And here we get this 335982, which is the ID of this data frame. So let's see this thing. Now, what if we now we can pass now what if we want to select multiple rows using this iloc indexer. So for that we say df.iloc, and inside the bracket we pass multiple list of multiple rows based on integer location. So we will say 0, 2, 4, 5. So here we get the data frame or the rows with respect to this integer location that we passed. Similarly, we can also, if we want to have specific column for these particular rows, we say df.iloc, and for the rows we pass 0, 2, 4 and 5. And say for example we want to pass the 0, we want the ID column, city column, player of the match column, which is at uh, in integer location 3. Let's see what we get. So here we get the we got the specified columns for the specified rows based on integer locations. Instead of passing integer the list of integer locations, you can also use slicing here. So for that we say df.iloc. By slicing I mean a range. So say for example we want rows from the integer location 0 to 5, and we want column based on integer locations 1 to 10. So here it prints the columns city to this toss decision and rows from 0 to 5. So when we use iloc, this particular index is not it is excluded in the iloc indexer. So similar, so now yeah, so this is how we use iloc to get the rows or columns based on based on their integer locations. Now let's see the what loc is. Loc it allows us to select rows and columns based on the labels. So now let's see what we have first in this df.head. So here you see this 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 on the left side. These are the index values. So so when we say that loc allows us to select rows and columns based on the labels, these index values and the column names are the labels for rows and columns respectively. So for example, for this particular row, its label would be this 0 index value. For this particular row, this 1 index value would be its label. Similarly, for this particular ID column, the ID would be its label. For this particular column, city would be its label, and so on. So in this data frame, the integer locations for rows and the index values are one and the same. We will create a new data frame with different index values for better understanding. So let's say this. Let's create a new data frame test df. And in that we will pass values from 5 to 10. Now let's see what we have in this test data frame. So if you see, the index values now are starting from 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now if I want to print the first row using the iloc, I'll have to pass 0, because as I said earlier, integer locations always start from 0. So test df dot iloc, we are using iloc. Okay, I'll pass the 0 and it will give me the first row. Now if I want to get the same row using the loc indexer, I'll have to pass 5, because loc is based on labels, and for that row we have 5 as its indexed value. So test df.loc, inside the bracket will pass 5, and here we get the same result what we got above. Now if you want to get a value based on particular row and column, we can pass the label for column as well. So for that we say test df dot loc, and in the bracket we will pass label for the row, and for column, let's say we want to have the city for that particular row. So we will pass the name of the column city, and here we will get the Jaipur, which is what we expected. Now, just like what we did in iloc, we can do the same operations in loc as well. We can pass the list of values in loc as well. So for that we say test underscore df dot loc, and here we will pass the list of index values for rows, which is let's say 5, 6, 7, and for column we will say player of match and team 1, team 2. Let's see what we get. We got some error. Oh, match. So now we can pass here. So here we pass the list of values. We can also use slicing. So for that we say test underscore df dot iloc, loc, and here we will use slicing. Let's say 5 to 9, and for columns we want to have values, let's say for example from player of match, sure, from player of match to, let's say, winner. So here we got the columns from player of match till the winner, and the rows from 5 to 9. So one important thing to note here in loc, this 9 values is always included. Same is applicable for this winner column as well. So this is what I wanted to show you in this video about how we can select rows and columns from the data frames. We also saw how to use loc and iloc. If you are still confused between them, I suggest you to watch this video one more time. But again, if you still have any question, feel free to ask in the comment box. In the next video, we will see more operations on data frame. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.